Shall we go over what we have?
I'm ready.
You're ready. Maybe I'll talk you through this a bit because
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, this is your thing.
yeah, no, and I want to show it to you, right? So I managed to do most of the things that you said. So here we see power, CMC, and toughness for all the creatures in the set. Left is a simple bar chart by color. So gold cards are the gold cards, and then there's of course white, blue, red, green, and black.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have cumulative line charts of basically the similar numbers. So here we get a feel for, okay, so how many creatures have a power of 4 or less? Oh, that's 89%.
Okay.
So we can, when we have a certain card, when we have a certain creature, we can get a feel for, okay, how many of the creatures does that creature block without dying? How many of those creatures does it kill, etc. Right? We can.
I can't see the number of the power and of 3 in the resolution from the.
No, that's correct. So so for 3 it's 77%.
Okay, 77. Yeah, I don't see the 77. It's just
Okay.
pixelated on the.
Pixelated. Okay, I'll call out
Discord's fault. Yeah.
I'll call out the numbers for sure, and if people in the stream can't catch it, then they'll sure to. But this is basically the set one. We have the color pair one, where these charts are altered so that they show common, uncommon, rare, and mythic rare instead of the coloring, right? We have the average power, median, the toughness, the median, CMC. I also added the tier score. So if I would, for example, select a color pair here. So let's say we look at black-green, for example. So I select all the black cards, the green cards, and the black-green-gold cards. Now we can see that the average tier score for that is 3.44, and that the average tier score within the commons is 2.99 for that specific color pair. And we can dive a bit deeper in that, so we can see what the highest rated commons are within those colors, the highest rated uncommons within those colors, and the highest rated.
4 is like a B, yeah.
Yeah. I put up a translation table here on the right, so you can see that I translated a to a 5, a B to a 4, and the pluses and the minuses are basically minus 0.25 plus 0.25. That's how I can average them basically.
Yeah. No, I do the same, but I do like I think 0 to 10 or something.
Okay, yeah, that would have been fine as well, I think.
For calculations, I actually square them. I do it 0 to 1, and I square them because I thought that there is a big difference between A and B. So,
yeah,
if you square them, you have a much bigger difference when you.
Definitely. Yeah. Oh, that's a good suggestion.
You do to get the data fitting.
Good suggestion for next time, right? I'll include that for sure. But this at least gives us an idea of well, the commons, the uncommons, and the rares in the color pair that Alex values the highest, so we can talk a bit about those maybe.
I do agree with the scores almost completely. That's shocking. I wonder when we are going to be wrong.
with Alex's scores, you mean?
Yeah. I think I had maybe a couple of things that I thought maybe will be higher. But that was like, I don't know, White and Red Saga maybe. I think the blue 2/4 shapeshifter a bit more than he does, but it's just small differences there.
Okay. So that's what we have in the dashboard, right? And then well, you build the templates for the draft archetypes, so you know those.
Well, now it was 3 days. I might have forgotten already, and probably I changed mind in case of some of them. But I think that it doesn't matter that much because this is not Zendikar. This is a completely different set where you have such a big variety of archetypes you can build in the same color pair that I think this is going to be more of an exercise in what is possible in each color pair than in what is the leading archetype. Yeah. I think when we did it last time for Zendikar, I looked at those archetypes from the perspective of the set. I mean, we did it, 2 weeks before it was online?
Yeah, rather early, yeah.
And I think that most of them, maybe swap a couple of cards, but most of them were the things that I would draft in the late format. And here I'm sure that this is not going to be the case. This is more of a, this is so much like Ikoria. There's going to be micro synergy pockets. So I played around with draft sim quite a lot, and I found things like I I definitely drafted a black green death touch tribal, and it will happen once in a while because it's possible. I got two of those death touch lords, two of the sagas that give death touch to every creature you have. Some go white things, and then if you can imagine, every creature you get gets that touch. You swing with all, and they what? They block everything and lose all their creatures to your 1/1 elves, or do they let them in and they get 8 poison counters all of a sudden?
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, I
it's gonna
agree.
be some fun interactions there.
No, I fully agree with what you said regarding Zendikar. I think we were able to figure out the archetypes there pretty quickly, right? Because they were pretty straightforward. And here I think the synergies are way less straightforward, or maybe they're not less straightforward, but they're more diverse. Like I mean,
I
we get
think yeah, this is more like Zendikar was a supermarket. You go into the supermarket and you know what you get. And Kaldheim is going to be more like this kind of a shop where there are multiple small shops, might be like a mall. And sometimes you will go to the clothing store and the shoe shop, and sometimes you will go to the deli and to the computer game store and to the LGS that's in the mall. And depends on what you will visit, your deck will look completely different. I think that this is the sort of like small pockets of synergy, as some famous content creators say. This is going to be the theme of the deck. And if you get a couple of early payoffs for a pocket of synergy, you are going to reevaluate your draft completely very, very quickly.
Yeah, agree. Maybe before this analogy, I love it. Maybe before we dive in, hello to the people in the chat. Are you able to hear Sierkovitz in a similar volume than you can hear me? Like, is our volume similar? Because that's rather important, and I have no clue whether that's the case, yes or no. So you're both great. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so we got that fixed then.
My condolences that you can actually hear me.
Yeah. No, Sierkovitz. Yeah, I think it's great to have you on. Welcome. Um, how is it to be present in this big streamers environment?
Well, I'm humbled by the experience. It's my second presentation today, and trust me, this one is much more fun.
Yeah. No, it's great having you here, Sierkovitz. I mean, I like doing this with you.
Always a pleasure.
I like doing this with you a lot. I mean, we're not here for the views really. We are also here because we really like to do this stuff, right? So and no, yeah.
I think that I'm in the age where it's only a hobby. I should not even dare monetizing it and stealing the jobs from millennials that are starved for cash.
Yeah, can you imagine starving Alex? That would suck, right?
Oh yeah, no, poor Alex. He needs his coffee crisps and other candy from Canada that I don't even know what they are.
No, definitely. So yeah, it's just us sharing our passion basically. We like to think about drafting. So we figured we dive into the 10 archetypes that are present, and we wanna well, not only give our opinions on those archetypes, but also yeah, get some data on the screen to get a feel for how strong the archetype is, what the better cards in the archetype are, and where the interesting synergies lie. So yeah, shall we dive in?
I'm ready.
I'll throw this up quickly, and maybe you can tell us what we see here.
Okay, so well, basically, we decided to build some skeletons of the decks, and the main decision that you have to take before you decide that is, what are the rules for the skeletons? I know that some people like to build 17 commons and 30 card decks just to focus on the common synergies. I think that this just doesn't capture the modern sets enough. I think that uncommons are such an important feature of the modern limited archetypes that you cannot just build anything without the uncommons. And also, if you end up in a good lane, you should be rewarded with at least some rares, or if you open a rare and force it blatantly, you will have it in your deck. So I think that putting one rare and deciding which rare is the one that you would like to have in your deck is important. So our skeletons will be built with one rare or mythic. I think that I skipped putting mythics this time because it's a bit shameless to put the chase mythic in your deck. Then there are 6 uncommons, and there cannot be duplicates among them. And then the rest is built of commons, but I only allow 6 replicates per deck. I think I've been a bit loose with this rule in a couple of the skeletons, but these are the fun ones that I don't plan drafting frequently, but they require some card repetition more in the Ham TV kind of style when you want to build a semi-constructed deck in limited and try to do it.
Yeah.
So this is the basic skeleton of the skeleton. Will be 6 uncommons, 1 rare, and the rest filled with commons.
Great. And when you see replicates, you mean duos of 2 the same commons, right?
In 9 out of 10 skeletons, no more than 2, but in one I had to put more than 2 because otherwise the deck doesn't work, in my opinion, and I thought it was a very cool skeleton, so I bent the rules there. But generally I try not to put more than 2 of the card.
Okay.
Which is, I mean, it's fair. You will get 2.4 average of each common per draft pod. If you have an open color, you will most of the time be able to get 2 of a particular common, unless you're quite unlucky.
Okay. I think these are great. This is a great outline, right, for the reasons that you mentioned, and I fully agree on the importance of the uncommons, especially these days. I think they make or break your draft, actually.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I start doing those skeletons, I start with uncommons. I fill in the 6 uncommons I want, and then only I fill in the commons, and then leave rare as a cherry on top to look at the synergies of the deck. So uncommons are really the backbone of every single one of those decks.
Yep. Awesome. Want to dive in the first one?
Go on. Surprise me which one you've selected as the first one. I don't have a preference. We can just go in any kind of order.
Sure. Let's start red black. Let's start with the Rakdos one. I decided to use this view instead of the by CMC view because it's really tiny and I think it's hard to read for the people that are watching the screen.
Yeah.
So that's why I chose this one. It's maybe a bit less ideal, but still we can talk over it and at least the images are visible. So talk me through this a bit. What did you do here? What do you think of red black in general?
Okay, there we are. Okay, so this is actually the first one I did. Then I recorrected it a bit, but this is, I don't think it's the most common way of building the deck. I decided to build it on the synergy I think is going to be underrated for the lot of the beginning of the format. And it's based on 2 uncommons, obviously, and 1 common. So the uncommons is Rune of Mortality, which I think lots of content creators say is the weakest of the runes, and I think it's one of the stronger ones, especially in Black-Red.
Mm-hmm.
And Dwarven Hammer. So when you think about it, you put the Rune of Mortality on the Dwarven Hammer, and now you have a creature with +3/+0 trample and Death Touch. Death Touch and Trample work like this, that you only need to do 1 damage and the rest you trample. So we kind of chump block a creature with the +3/+0 and Trample and Death Touch. You block it with the 7/7, it deals 1 damage to the 7/7 and the remainder to the player. So if you have a decent amount of creatures, you can just swing them at the opponent and they either take the damage or throw their creatures under the bus. If you have a 1/1 Elderfang Disciple, which is just Ravenous Rats, it becomes a 4/1 that is a 5-turn clock, or you chuck any amount of creatures and each of them will prevent 1 damage. I think that this interaction between those 2 cards is going to be super powerful, especially that people will probably in best of 1 not play many things that can destroy artifacts. The only thing I'm worried about is the 1/3 green elf, shapeshift green. I'm already saying elf. It's a changeling, but it will be probably used as an elf most of the time. And the second synergy there is the Tormentor's Helm, which is basically a short sword. And here you just have a slightly different plan. You put the rune on the helm. It doesn't make them trample, but it still makes every creature you have as a potent threat that will kill anything that blocks it. And you can attack with one creature, and for 1 mana move it to a blocker, and they cannot really attack into you because you will just eat their best creature with the helm. So over time, you will just grind them out with damage, and that's the plan. So this is the uncommon synergy. There are 2 other uncommons that are pure raw power, and these are the Kardur and Kardur's Victorious Return. So Kardur is a 4/3 Berserker, which forces your opponent to attack. I think you have to go one higher. Yeah, that's the one. I only found this picture, unfortunately. It's the special version. It's quite cool, but maybe less visible. And it's a solid 4/3 for 4 mana, forces your opponents to attack into you, where you can eat their little stuff and then swing back for quite a significant chunk. It's just great. It's a Berserker, which is quite important because you can easily play things like the thingy that returns 2 creatures of the same type in this deck. I didn't put it in this particular build. I didn't put it for a reason I will explain soon, but you can imagine playing it, and there's so many Berserkers that you'll be easily able to get 2 cards from your graveyard with it. And then Kardur's Victorious Return is a sort of like a reanimator target that also doubles up as a removal. You just need to sacrifice one of your redundant creatures, and then you kill something, then you make an opponent discard, you discard your card as well, but then you can return a creature from a graveyard to play. So it's doing a lot for 4 mana. Now, what do we have here in the uncommon slot on top of that? Did I just put? Oh yes.
Vicious Return is here. There's a Vengeful Reaper.
Yeah. Oh, the Vengeful Reaper. That's just a very good utility creature. I don't think it's needed. I put it because I could put one more uncommon, and I thought that this is just such a good rate when you think about it. It's 4 mana, flying, death touch, haste. What else do you want?
Yeah.
You put the Dwarven Hammer on top of it, it just smashes them in 3 turns.
Agreed. Fatfos in chat says, could I interest this deck skeleton in a Hagi mob? That's the 4 and a red 5/4.
Yes. So I was really considering it for a long time, and probably you can swap one of the Hulks into the Hagi mob. I think it's a very, very valid combo to put Death Touch on Hagi mob. It's definitely going to work. And Hagi mob, I think, will be quite a decent creature because people will be shameless. There is no X1 hate. So people will shamelessly play those X1 creatures, and Hagi mob will come on a white steed and do the damage by removing all those little things that you play as a redundant creatures.
Yeah, and I think in itself it's a 5 mana 5/4, right? With the Berserker type.
There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that 4 is a very good stat line here because there's so many 3/2s and so many creatures that have like 2 toughness. I think we can after doing the skeleton, we can look a bit at your data, but generally a 4, that's why I put the 2 Craven Hulks, because I think that the 4/4 trades with 2 creatures quite frequently. And in this deck, it's even more scary because you can make them 5/5 death touch. Yep. And then they will definitely kill 2 targets. And also you have 2 Demonic Gifts. This is the card I put instead of the return cards from the graveyard to hand. But this card is going to be such a house in the red-black archetype, I think. So this is a good combo with several cards from the deck. First of them will be the Death Knell Berserker, the one above it. This one, when it dies and had a power of 3 or greater, create a 2/2 zombie Berserker. So you play it on this one, you trade off with a 4/4, you get the 2/2 Berserker, and then this one returns to have another go at making a 2/2 Berserker. This is probably going to be very demotivating.
Yeah, I love it.
And the second smaller synergy is with the Elderfang Disciple, because you can play it on this one, kill a 3 toughness creature, and then it returns and forces the opponent to discard a card, which is great.
Yeah. That's value right there.
And this deck is nothing special. It's just several 2-drops, a couple of aggressive 3-drops, a bit of very, very little, but a bit of boast. There's the Tuscary Firewalker I put in, which is great for, if you run out of steam, you can try to draw an extra card. And if you put something like a Death Touch +1/+1 equipment on top of it, people will have really tough decision on how to block it, to kill it, and without you gaining an advantage.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of removals: Demon Bolt, Feed the Serpent. These are just obvious.
Yeah. Best common in the set. Second best common in the set, I think, right?
Probably. And you know, if you play 2 colors that have best commons in the set, just play them.
Yeah, just play them.
whatever reaches your hands, play them. And there's the Basalt Ravager. This is the last uncommon of the skeleton. And I think that this one, people think it's a giant wizard card, but for me, it's just perfect for red-black, because almost every creature that you have is a berserker. And here you can imagine several scenarios. You can have 3-4 berserkers, and then it becomes a Flametongue Cavu, literally. You can have 3 elves easily, because you have the Death Knell Berserker, Elder Funk Disciple, and that becomes quickly several elves. You can have the 1 giant, and then it just becomes pink for 2 if you play it as a second giant. So there's plenty of micro synergies with it, and it will definitely kill something.
Yeah, agreed.
And if it doesn't, then you're so far behind that the 4/2 will do as well.
Dwarf might be a thing here as well. Zombie might even be a thing here as well. There's
easily
plenty.
But I think that all the zombies are also berserkers, aren't they? So
correct. Yeah. I think they are.
That's the only. I think that the nice flavorsome way would be to call cowards and think something for 1.
So, sweet.
Yeah, and one last thing. So the Cartful Kennel Master is just the top end. It's very good to do this kind of like shot to nothing attack when you all of a sudden get 2 4-power creatures. You swing with both of them, they get indestructible, and the opponent must really think hard how they are going to devote their resources to deal with it. And also I put a couple of snow-covered lands, because I think that one thing you should do, especially if you don't draft snow, is draft snow lands. If you have an empty pack, take that mountain, take that swamp. Definitely prioritize the 2-color lands, because they will fix your mana, and that's quite important for you.
Right. Doesn't really matter that they are snow, right? In that sense.
Yeah, but I mean, I would opportunistically pick a couple of snowlands from every draft that I do, just so that the person that drafts snow has a bit of a tougher life, because giving them all the snowlands is just make them work for it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. But do they bring anything to the black-red archetype, do you think? Are there any payoffs for having...
You easily can draft the red bolts. I didn't put them in here because I thought that I will focus on cheap creatures, but red bolts are good, but they're way better if you have 3 snow sources. Yeah, so even if you don't have them in the first 2 packs, you can easily get them in the 3rd pack. When you have 4 snowlands, at least you give yourself a chance of playing it for as a lightning bolt, not as a shock.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, and I didn't mention the rare? Bloodsky Massacre.
Bloodsky Massacre, yeah, I noticed it.
I mean, so... Look, I know I should have put the dragon vampire thing inside, because it's clearly a better card. But I put this one because it's way more synergistic, and it leads to some kind of lovely plays when you play the Berserker on 2nd turn, this on turn 3. On turn 4, you play the Haste Berserker, and when the chapter 2 hits and you draw a card for every Berserker attacking, you're attacking with 3 Berserkers, so you draw 3 cards. This is on par with the White-Red Saga. It's brilliant. And then you still ramp yourself on turn on the next round, and it's a small bonus that you can use for something. So there is no bad things about it. I put it strictly out of synergy. Also, the fact that the Berserker has Menace is quite useful, because if you have those Death Touch tricks, they will have to be double blocked if they want to deal with it, and that means 2 creature goes to trade with it, which is great, I guess.
Yeah, fully agree. I also think that the rare you mentioned, right, the dragon, it's also a card that might be splashed in Gruul, for example. While this is a card that is actually a Rakdos card, right? I don't see this.
Oh yeah, no, that you don't want to play. This will be definitely something that if you pick the right lane, if someone opens it in pack 3, you will get it.
Yeah,
which
probably.
is great, because it's a great card.
Right.
It's a B+, solid B+ card. Maybe it's not an A, but
I think in that sense it's fair of you to pick this rare and not the dragon, because I think it's way more likely that you're going to have this in your Rakdos decks.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a dragon.
Me neither, me neither. Let's see if Fotvos has something to add. He says, I really don't have much experience with haste creatures. Are they much worse on the draw? Should I side them out if I have good replacements? What do you think?
That's a good one. You can. I think that you have enough 2-drops that you're not going to have a problem with. So honestly, in the last months, I didn't play much best of 3. My sideboarding is very straightforward. I don't do much of it. I stick to my deck as it is.
That is
It's
fair.
best of 1.
That is
But
fair.
there's definitely a case for that. But if you play with a slow and dirty deck, 3-2 is a 3-2, and maybe you want to put something more defensive. And ironically, if something more defensive might be something like a 1-mana first striker, like the pup, because it will block your opponent's creatures very well. And if you play it on turn 1 and play the Tormentor's Helm on turn 2, equip it, you have a very good blocker. It will hold off for many turns before they can make a reasonable attack. So you can try something like that, or you can go for something with the higher toughness. But I just don't see that many creatures in black-red that have a higher toughness and are cheap. So Berserker is not a bad one in that aspect. I think
No.
it's definitely better when you curve out 2-drop, 3-drop, and then this as a 4-drop, for example, to make a triple attack and overwhelm the opponent.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said. I would normally not like a 3-mana 3-2, in all honesty. But I think it being aggressive is nice, given that this archetype
sticks to the plan, I think.
Yeah, it sticks with the plan. It's a berserker. It has types, so I totally
and
get the
with some of
include.
the cards in the deck. Yeah, with Cardur, you will have those turns when the opponent will be forced to tap out, and then playing a haste creature on the turn when they had to tap out, and then dealing that extra 3 damage is quite useful.
Fully agree. Also, Fatfus mentions Dog Pursuit. It's the 4-mana Ill-Gotten Inheritance variant without the actual punch at the end. What do you think? What do you think of that card?
I don't know.
It's tough,
it's very
right?
hard to evaluate those. Yeah, exactly. I mean, remember that the Ill-Gotten Inheritance wasn't very highly rated at the beginning of the season.
No,
Revenge
sure.
of the Ravens wasn't very highly rated at the beginning of the season.
Now, it was by me at that point, yeah.
To be fair, I also did like it, but it was not super highly rated. And I think that this one is weaker by a lot. But if this deck turns to have a problem with dealing the last 3-4 points of damage, then yes, I think that the Dwarven Hammer plays the role of the punishment tool much better, because you have so many small creatures and you can generate so many creatures from your combat tricks, that I would rather play this as the dealer of the last damage.
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair enough.
But if you don't get the hammer, you can also build a much more boast-centric version of it, and you can put the equipment that gives flying. Because I think that the boast will be used mainly in conjunction with the flying equipment, because that makes it much more difficult for the opponent to do something about it. You just put it on your Tuskeri Firewalker, you smash for 4, and you draw a card every turn. It's not a bad deal, is it?
No, definitely. I do like it in combination with Rune of Mortality, though. I mean, having this having this win for sure in 5 turns, forcing your opponent to attack into your Death Touch 1/1s. I kind of like that.
Oh yeah, no. I so much will like my late game Elderfang disciples that will just stand there and look at the 6/6 on the other side and say, "So what? What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?" Yeah, totally. Want to dive into the numbers behind this archetype a bit, Sierko?
Yeah, sure. Let's take a look what you can conjure up from your magic desktop thing. I'm really impressed by that. It's super sweet.
Well, it's it's MTG JSON data brought into a Power BI dashboard, and I try to make some useful visualizations that we can use as talking points. Right? You mentioned a certain stat line that might be pretty nice, stuff like that, and we could have a look into that and whether that's actually correct. Maybe dive into the color pair a bit. So we're looking at Rakdos here. So I'll quickly filter the Rakdos card. So we're taking a black, red, and a black red cards into consideration here. So we can look at the power, toughness, and CMC charts a bit, and what we see that the archetype has quite some 2 toughness creatures. A lot of them are in the 1 and 2 range, actually, right? As you can see. Average power.
So white is common, yeah.
Yeah. In this graph, white is common, gray is uncommon, orange is mythic, and gold is rare. So there's 1 common apparently with 7 power. We can have a look at it. What that is? It's Cinderheart Giant. It's the red 7/6. So
which I think is playable if you have some reanimation in. You can probably have like this black-red reanimation sub-theme when you have the couple of the red sagas, one of the black reanimator things, and then you can basically start playing around with the 7/6.
Yep, agree. We can have a look at the tier score as well, right? So we can see that the average tier score in common is 2.87. If we look at the tier scores a bit closer, we can see that C is a 3, so the average in common is a bit below C, which is rather normal, I think. You see that in most archetypes.
Yeah, I mean, lots of those commons are, let's call them not rewards, and not even role players. I think that there's, it's also like we look at the generic rankings of the cards. I think that several cards are going to severely overperform in the black-red compared to the other red archetypes. And I think that it's all the small aggro cards basically are going to be overperforming in this particular one, like the pup, or like the 3/2 haste creature. They are probably going to be way better here than in the red-blue or red-green. I think red-green is quite grindy compared to the previous incarnations of Gruul.
Yeah, I think looking at the better commons in this archetype, I mean, we went over some of them, right? Of course, there's Demon Bolt and Fetus Serpent, together with Frostbite, like the 3 clear removal spells. What do you think of Priest of the Haunted Edge?
I think that this is the card that's going to be black-blue and black-green snow. I don't foresee myself drafting so many snowlands that this card is going to be good in this. I mean, for it to be good, I want to have 8, 10 snowlands, and I don't see prioritizing snow so much unless I'm really feeling misanthropic towards snow players and just do it out of spite.
And what do you think of the card in general? It reminds me a bit of the... maybe that's not a fair...
I think in the snow deck it's fantastic.
It's an early blocker and you can sack it. Yeah, you can sack it for something better later on, right? That's the whole idea.
I think that it's going to be fantastic. You play it on turn 2, you block all the creatures. That's why I also like the +2/+0 trick, because that one just jumps over those kinds of creatures. And then when you think that blocking is not necessary, you just sacrifice it to kill it, their best thing you can kill. And I think that the skill with this card will be to make a decision when you want to do the kill. And that I think that in the beginning, a lot of people will wait just too long and will forget that, well, you can only do it as a sorcery. So you really have to make sure that you can sense this removal coming.
Yeah, fully agree.
Also, it's terrible with the new capture sphere, because you can just tap it for 1 mana and 0 damage to yourself. So it's like a freebie.
Say that again?
It's really bad with the new blue capture sphere for 1 mana, because you just tap it, it deals 0 damage to you.
Right. You mean the blue spell deals 0 damage.
For the opponent, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Play against it, yeah.
But at that point you used a removal spell to remove a 2 mana creature, right? A 2 mana common creature. So I think you lost.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
But indeed you are shutting it down very cheaply at that point. I agree.
Although I probably would like to think that at that time I'm using my 1 mana to save my 4/4 or to save my 5/5.
Yeah, agree.
That would make me feel much better than to think I'm wasting it on a 2-drop.
Oh, agree. Fatfus also mentioned that the top 3 removal is all instant. I think that's also a reason why it's here, right? But I do think it is good to notice that most of the good removal in this set is actually instant, right? We saw some sets where the black removal is sorcery, for example, or where the red removal is sorcery, and here we're back to the instant speed 3 and 4 mana
Well, you
removal.
have the -3/-3 thing, which
That's
I think actually will be not terrible in this particular deck because it removes quite a lot, and you are going to trade a lot. You want to trade with this archetype probably.
yeah, agree. Let me
But
see.
it's lower graded. I think it's slightly better in here then.
Where did Alex put that?
Oh, he's pretty low on it, isn't he?
He is pretty low on it. Where is it? Village rights, skill rate. What's
It's way something.
yeah, way. It is a common, right?
I thought so.
No clue. No clue what's
Or
happening here.
maybe he didn't put it there, or maybe it doesn't matter, does it?
Doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Does it make sense to look at better uncommons, better rares here, or do you wanna move over to the next archetype and?
How long did we take for this one?
We've been streaming for 37 minutes now, so I think we took 30 minutes to talk about the Rakdos archetype. So if you want to do 5 tonight, I think it's better to move on to the next one.
Yeah, exactly. I think that it's
way
if we
down.
make the case of how this deck can look like, people will figure out what uncommons are good. But you can think that this deck can have, as I mentioned before, the set is going to be very much about small synergies. And for instance, if you get a couple of Blood Sky Berserkers, I think that you can make a case for the red-black play 2 spells per turn kind of thing, and then you prioritize village rights, revival, and all kinds of that stuff.
Yeah, agree.
Because the Blood Sky Berserker can get out of hand very quickly, and especially when you back it up with an aggressive deck, you can do some serious damage with it.
Yeah, agree. Alex is rather enthusiastic about all the black and red rares. he gave multiple A's, which is rare.
Yeah, but they are definitely good. It's just not all of them are good for this deck.
No, fully agree.
I mean,
Blood on the Snow,
probably,
for example.
probably.
Okay, let's dive into the next one.